Hey there, it's Melissa at Twin Oaks Farm in rural Southeast Ohio, USA. Welcome back to Twin Oaks Farm Poultry on YouTube. And it is day 31 of raising our flock of broilers. Broilers is a typical term to refer to chickens raised for producing poultry. So we're going to take a look at the meat chickens. At this point, being 31 days old, they're basically a month old and about 2/3 of the way through production. We raise them out to 42 days old. So the day that they're turning 6 weeks old, we have a processing appointment set up for them at a USDA inspected processor plant, and we will put them up in transport crates and take them to the processor then. So we're going to take a look at the flock, and you're seeing birds that we still consider in the grower phase, and we're headed into the finishing phase. So basically it's just all one continuum of growth, but they start out, egg size and weighing a little bit of nothing, and then within that 6-week window we have meat chickens that really are finished and ready to be processed into poultry and are expected to weigh about 6 to 8 pounds at that point. They can be successfully raised a little longer if you, for example, are raising them for your household use and want a little bigger finished bird. You can raise them a little longer, get them a little heavier live weight, and they'll tend to finish out about 75% of their live weight as a processed whole chicken, for example. So when we take a look at the flock today, there's always so much we could update on with the flock, but we are trying to keep it in a window of, maybe hopefully like 8 minutes or so that it's reasonable for our viewers to get a chance to watch it. We know that your time is precious, and we greatly appreciate your time and effort to watch our videos and to join us at Twin Oaks Farm Poultry. Please do subscribe to our channel if you haven't. Give it a thumbs up if you like it, or a thumbs down if you don't, and we appreciate your feedback and comments. But we're going to look at their feed consumption today and talk about their feed consumption, and also want to just let you see the conditions of the grower pen. We've had to add bedding material into it, so that's a major consumable that we go through when raising meat chickens. With our production practices, our birds are raised inside a barn, and we have to keep that bedding material underneath them in great shape and great condition for their well-being and for keeping our floor underneath the bedding in good shape too. So let's go ahead and take a look at the birds. We are heading to a high school football game here shortly, and want to try to get this video done before we have to head out. So we did put down fresh bedding in the grower pen. We're basically going to try to pan around the grower pen here to give you an overall look at the birds. We more or less have the barn mostly closed up right at the moment. It is 80 degrees outside, and that's still about 10 degrees warmer than meat birds at this age really want to be. If you want to hear more about a chicken's natural body temperature and them regulating that body temperature, you could watch the day 30 broilers video. And so in that video, it was also about 80 degrees at the time, and we had some strong sunlight actually coming into the barn here that we closed up and got it shaded again. And so that's why right now we mostly have the barn closed up as well, to keep the extra sunlight out, because that just heats it up. We do have, instead of the entire carriage doors open around the barn on 2 sides, we have half of the set of carriage doors open to just allow a little bit of natural ventilation to let some air move through here. But they had definitely maxed out the bedding that was on top of the floor, so it was time to add to that, and it took 4 bags to add to that. Had a great question from day 30 broilers video. Shout out to Steve. Steve asked how much bedding material we use, the pine shavings, how much of that we would use over the whole flock. And we anticipate using about 35 bags for the whole flock. And actually the last flock that we did that ended, I believe, in June, the end of June of 2023, we had 300 birds in it too, and we used about 40 bags of bedding. So we'll probably definitely use at least the 35, hoping to stay around 35. And this is basically a deep litter bedding system. And before we talk about the feed, wanted to mention we had these transport crates actually lined through this whole wall and doorway just to kind of have a buffer between the exterior wall and doorway and the birds. And we've just yesterday on day 30 removed that, and you can't see it now because the birds have laid down along the wall and spread some of the bedding out, but it gave us an opportunity when we removed those crates to see the depth that the bedding has built up to. And so actually, like where these birds are laying, we had scraped away down to the floor earlier. Right there's the floor, and we used a measuring stick, and we have about 3 to 4 inches of bedding depth throughout the bird's grower pen that has been built up over their production. So these birds were hatched on August 23rd, 2023. This is September 22nd, 2023, and that's what deep litter bedding is. You start with clean bedding, and they use it. It absorbs manure and moisture load, and as it gets maxed out on what it can absorb and the birds compact it, then you need to add more bedding on top of that, and doing that is basically what we consider deep litter bedding. And then we'll do that until the flock is done, and at the conclusion of raising this flock, we could either clean it out or rebed it and do another flock on the built up bedding material as well. So and then after maybe 2 or 3 flocks, definitely would be ideal to clean it all out and get back down to the floor material, which in our case is limestone screenings, and start again. So real quick on the production board, actually I can show you that we have used, we got to go in kind of slow here, let it focus. We've used 27 bags of bedding so far, and so about every 2 or 3 days we're seeing that they do need some fresh bedding added on top. So I did want to mention about the feed, and also we can take a look. Thanks for bearing with me on the camera focusing. I'm moving back and forth kind of quick. It doesn't handle that well. So we have put in 100 pounds for today's feeding. We've used a total of 39 bags so far, and we anticipate using 60 bags for the entire production. So we're on day 31. We're going out today, at least day 42. I actually counted it up. I believe the processing date for this flock is October 6th. So I think that's actually about 14 more days. So 2 weeks that we've got to go. And we have a target feed consumption range. And at this point, which for us with this flock was 60 50-pound bags or 3,000 pounds of feed. So for us at this point, we are pacing these birds at 100 pounds of feed daily, and they've been eating 100 pounds of feed daily since about September 11th, actually. Now, that's been sufficient and kept them very satisfied, and they haven't been running out, before it's time to add in the next 100 pounds like every 24 hours. But actually, as of day 30, they had consumed the 100 pounds that we had added into their feeders in about 14 hours. So they actually have kind of turned a corner where they're consuming the 100 pounds that we are allotting for every 24 hours faster than every 24 hours. So we have 2 options. We could increase the amount of feed we're giving them, increase their feed allotment and give them like 150 pounds every 24 hours, or we could continue the feed allotment of 100 pounds every 24 hours and let them eat that down and make them wait between adding feedings in. And actually that's what we're going to do. They are growing really well, and numbers are great in this flock. We are still at 299 birds out of 305 that we started with on August 23rd. So we don't want them, to overeat. We recognize they do need a lot of food and a lot of rest because they're growing, and that's when we grow, when we eat and when we sleep. So they need that, but we don't want them to overeat. So we're going to continue at the 100 pounds of feed a day. So we're going to wrap it up. Thanks for joining us. Please join us again. We'll see you on day 32 back in the meat bird production barn. God bless y'all.